Well, doing this YouTube channel has been a learning process for me, of which many of you have had to suffer through over the past few years. Editing is a continual learning curve, and I hope I'm getting better as I go. I didn't offer merchandise like t-shirts and sweatshirts type of deal until I hit that 100,000 subscriber mark. So that was a process of trying to learn how to do that also. Well, for the past year or so, I have been trying to concentrate on putting in closed captions or subtitles on these videos. And I want to expand on that this year as a focus on this channel. I've only been putting them up in the English language, but I've had a number of requests to put these in multiple languages. So I have picked out 10 languages that I think are predominant from the comments and from the analytics. But if you have a suggestion on a specific language that you would like to see subtitles translated into, please leave that in the comments or send me an email, and we'll see if we can't get that attended to. I have a couple of young ladies that are far more adept at the computer than I am, and they are helping me do this translation, and we hope to have the complete channel translated into multiple languages here fairly quickly. Now, when I say fairly quickly, I'm not meaning like in the next week or two. This might be a several-month process, but if I did it by myself, it'd take a whole lot longer with my old fat stumbling fingers. Anyway, with their help, we're going to get this done efficiently. Maybe that would be a better way to say. Well, I'm continuing to work on this farm wagon undercarriage. You know, I've done a number of them in the past. Remember back, I built a complete new set of running gears for some sheep wagons. I also had some old Studebaker gears show up and just some odds and ends over the years. Well, I've never taken the time to video the complete process of putting all new wood in an original gear like the process that we're working on now. So that's what we're in the middle of this time. So I'm going to continue on and make some progress on the front axle this week. I've got on the front axle hounds and the rear stabilizer bar, I've got some joint work to do that is a little unusual. It is a combination of tapered, angled, and pocket or blind mortise and tenon all in these joints. It's a little unusual because most of the wagons that I worked on tend to have these tenons run clear through this stabilizer. This, however, is a blind joint, and that's what we're going to work on this week. Now, the rear stabilizer on this front axle assembly is a curved piece of wood, and there's an iron that goes on top of this that the reach will rub on as the front axle turns right and left. Now, if you remember the schematic, the front axle hounds are angled down so that this stabilizer bar will be underneath the reach as it heads downhill from the back axle to the front axle. You can see that there is an angle on this ironwork. Well, if I brought this angle of the stabilizer up 2.5 degrees when the front axle hounds are actually going down 2.5 degrees, the face or the plane of this ironwork would be level. So it has to go another 2.5 degrees up to match the declining 2.5 degree angle of the reach coming down to the front axle. So the face of the top of this stabilizer bar has to be adjusted 5 degrees in order to match the angle of the reach as it comes from the rear axle. So as I mock this up, you can kind of see the angle of these front tabs where they've been welded to the back arch. You can see the angle that is necessary. Well, there's a couple different ways that this can be accomplished. I could change the face of the joint where it's going to be mortise and tenon to the front axle hounds, or I can angle the top face of this stabilizer bar. And that's what I'm going to do to get my 5-degree angle that will match the reach. This way I can cut my mortise and tenon square, but yet have the top of this stabilizer bar at the correct angle. Now, since I am using original ironwork in this undercarriage, I'm going to use a bracework that goes out to the stay chains on each end of the axle. Mount these up, and that will determine exactly where this rear stabilizer is located at. Well, initially I tried to locate the location of my hole just with these nuts finger tight. And then I got to thinking, you know, I could change that measurement just a little when they are actually tightened up with a wrench. So I did tighten them up a little tighter and double check, and yeah, it worked out pretty close. But at least now I know exactly where that hole is going to be. So using this top stabilizer iron, where that is my pattern, I can locate my holes in the axle hounds, and I can also locate my holes on the stabilizer bar. So I'm going to drill a hole in each and partway through on the axle hounds, pin these together so I can actually mark out exactly where my joints need to be. So because my axle hounds are 3 inches wide where they attach to the axle, and they taper down to 2 1/4 where they intersect this rear stabilizer bar, the rear portion of this axle hound actually is tapered. And so this is a tapered, angled pocket joint or a blind mortise joint that goes to the stabilizer bar. So you can see here by the marks compared to this mortising bit, just the amount of taper that is in this mortise tenon joint. So even though I can get the shoulders on these joints fairly close just working on the bench, my final fit was when I actually have the axle hounds in place on the front axle. Then I know my placement is correct. Well, this mortise and tenon joint is perhaps maybe the most complicated joint on this front axle assembly. But with that in place, we can go ahead and start reassembling most of this front axle. I may disassemble it because I haven't drilled the front of these axle hounds for the queen bolt yet. I haven't decided if I'm going to do that freehand or take them off and do them in the drill press. But we'll continue on that process probably next week. Once again, thanks for watching.